All right, silly people, here's the situation. We're pretty much going to be making a program which plots some data that are on the online resources for this book. Um, I did just upload them to this Google Colab runtime, so there they are. It's sunspots.txt. Um, and so the first part of this is just writing a program that reads in the data and makes a graph of the sunspots as a function of time. So um, we are going to need NumPy to load the data in. So import NumPy as NP, and we're also going to need matplotlib to plot the data. So import matplotlib.pylab as plt. Right. We'll create an array that I'm just going to call spots data, and then you just put the np.loadText function and you call sunspots.txt. And if your Python script is in the same directory as the data file, then it will just call it like that, right? And then we're just going to go ahead and plot it, I think. So plt.plot the first column versus the second column to do months versus sunspots, yeah? So we're going to do spots data. To index the entire first column, you're going to do colon, comma, 0 for that. And then to do this entire second column, you do colon, comma, 1. And then once you have that, it should show the plot. So yeah, there it is. So yeah, that's some sunspot data for sure. Next bit is to modify it to only display the first 1,000 data points on the graph. So I'm just going to grab this and move it down here. And then to modify it to only do the first 1,000 data points, instead of doing colon, you do colon 1,000. That way it does every element up to and including the 1,000th one. Or it's not even up to and including, it's just up to 999, and it doesn't load in the 1,000th one. But that's, yeah, 0 to 999 is 1,000 data points, and so that's what that looks like. And it gets cut off at 1,000, just like we predicted. Finally, we need to modify it further to calculate and plot the running average of the data, which is given by that funky little equation there. This is a little bit more of an involved modification. And so, again, we're going to copy, paste this down. And then basically all of the modifications are going to be in here. So we need to create a new list, which I'm just going to call YLS, to represent the running average data. And at the end, we are going to plot that against the spots data, right? So 1,000, 0, YLS. But we actually need to find out what YLS is. So just looking at this, it's wanting us to run over the whole set of data points, or at least the first 1,000 ones, to try and get a running average. So let's do for I in range just 1,000 to get a bunch of indexes. And then let's not put it there, that doesn't make any sense. Let's put it here for I in range 1,000, right? We want to have a sum over a bunch of values of m, and then use those values of m to index the sunspots data, right? So we're going to say for m in range, and then it wants us to run from a value of minus r to r, right? So we're going to do minus r to r plus 1. That way it captures r inclusively. We need a sum, so we're going to start with y equals 0, and it's going to calculate. We also actually need an r value, and it suggests r equals 5. So let's run that through, r equals 5. And then, so we just add to the average this indexed sunspots data, sunspots I plus m, comma, 1, yeah, I plus m, comma 1, to get the I plus mth element of the second column, right? And then you divide it by, it was 2 times r plus 1. Yeah, 2 times r plus 1. Bam, bam, bam. Okay. And then it wasn't called sunspots, it was called spots data. Okay, cool. The problem is that when you do this, I think it actually won't run now because it doesn't exist yet. You need to yls.append y, and then it will produce that. That's not right. Well, I think it's just really hard to see. Let's put this guy underneath this one to overlap the blue. So instead of doing it like that, we'll do spots data colon 1000 0 versus yls. Okay. Now that looks right, but it actually isn't, because if you look back here, if you try to do I plus m for I equals 0 and r equals 5, then it's going to index minus 5, which means it's actually accessing a data point that is all the way on the other side of the data. So instead of keeping r equals 5 the whole time, you want to make it conditional. So if I happens to be less than or equal to 4, then you can't have it be equal, you can't have r equal to 5. Instead, you want to have r equal to I, right? So it only goes back as far as the 0th element. Also, once it gets to 994, you don't want it to be larger than 5, because now you're accessing data that is outside of our purview. So instead you want to say r equals 999 minus I. Right, so you're only accessing the first 1000 data points. Otherwise, everywhere in the middle you can have r equal to 5, and that will be a more correct way of doing the running average code. But yeah, plotting stuff.